Anger has been a central tenet of Donald Trump's campaign as well as his presidency, of course. He has frequently channeled his supporters' rage toward people or groups that he sees as his political enemies, some of whom were targeted by today's bombs.
Crooked CNN. CNN is so disgusting.
CNN's fake news. I don't take questions. I don't take questions from CNN. CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN.
You can have the biggest story about Hillary Clinton. I mean, look at what she's getting away with, but let's see if she gets away with it. Let's see.
You know who their new leader is? Maxine Waters. Very low IQ.
It's become radical resistance. You ever see their signs? Resist. They say, what are you going to resist? I don't know. They'll go to a person holding a sign who gets paid by Soros or somebody. Right? That's what happens.
President Obama, along with Brennan and Clapper and the whole group that you see on television now, probably getting paid a lot of money by your networks. They knew about Russia's attempt to interfere in the election in September, and they totally buried it.
Anyway, and moments ago, John Brennan, one of the intended targets of the bombs intercepted today, spoke about it for the first time. Let's listen.
It's very important for an individual who is in the Oval Office today to say exactly that we need to come together as a country. We need to unite. We may have differences, but this should be no reason whatsoever to resort to these types of acts of intimidation and potentially violence. I sincerely wish that Donald Trump, though, would have said these things previously and regularly. I wish that he would have encouraged people from all different backgrounds and political affiliations to come together.
Well, for more, I'm joined by Neera Tanden, President and CEO for the Center for American Progress, and John Feehery, a GOP strategist. John, this is a problem, I think, because it looks to me like the target list here is the usual suspects of the president's harangues. Well,
first of all, thank God none of those bombs went off and people are safe. That's the number one thing. Thank God that happened. The second thing, and I know it's fashionable to jump to conclusions, but I'd rather not jump to conclusions until we know precisely why the person who did this. I remember when I was working in the Capitol and we had anthrax.
Yeah.
And there was all kinds of conclusions. We still don't know who did the anthrax thing. But I also was working in the Capitol when we had a crazy man come in and shoot up our office when I worked for Tom DeLay. So being a public servant is a very difficult job, and it's been difficult and dangerous for a while. I think that Trump did the right thing by speaking out, and I think he needs to continue to speak out in each rally because I think this will become important for the country.
So you don't see a pattern in this list?
Of course you see a pattern for the list, but the question is, what was the motivation for the person? Someone unhinged, someone crazy? I think it was someone who's crazy. I don't know what their motivation was. And I'd like to get to the bottom of it.
I think the question is where they get their list from, and it seems they get it from the president.
Well, we don't know.
Well, that list is the president's list.
Do you not see a connection between all the people Donald Trump targets with his rhetoric, all the people he targets, and this, and everyone who's received a pipe bomb, 2 presidents, a former Secretary of State, and then people like Maxine Waters and John Brennan and George Soros? Like, who would even know who those people are if it weren't for Donald Trump targeting them in his speeches day after day?
Well, anybody who watches television knows that.
Because Donald Trump attacks them. They get press attention because Donald Trump attacks them.
Okay.
I mean, we do have to get to the bottom of it. I agree.
I think we need to find out. But instead of jumping to conclusions, I'd like to have an investigation to find out.
Why can't you condemn what the president's rhetoric has been? Why can't you just say his rhetoric has been wrong when it's dividing Americans against each other?
I think rhetoric.
Please just do that.
I think the rhetoric on both sides has been terrible.
Both sides?
Kick them when they're done.
I'm sorry. I have to say, I take this kind of personally because I know people who were targeted for murder today. But I have to say the idea that you're going to both sides is ridiculous.
Let's take a look at
There are not a whole group of Republicans who've been targeted for murder.
Well, Steve Scalise was targeted for murder.
Yes,
and almost killed. Almost actually killed.
That was terrible.
And he's a friend of mine.
And no political leader spoke out saying, let's go call Steve Scalise a terrible monster. It was a terrible thing that happened, and everyone condemned it, including Democrats. And it's sad to me that you can't do the same now.
I did condemn it.
Well, last week, President Trump attacked Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton, and Maxine Waters for being part of the Democratic mob that's losing it. This is very recent news. This is what the president said very recently. Let's listen to him.
The Democrats don't like being called an angry mob, but really, that's what they've become.
when you listen to Eric Holder talking about kicking,
When they go low, we kick.
or Hillary Clinton saying what she said, which was so horrible.
You cannot be civil.
They just don't see it. Maxine Waters constantly, day in and day out, ranting and raving.
You push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome.
They're losing it, and they shouldn't be.
What do you think of that, you two? Because it looked to me like that was tit for tat, but the president leading the song. Go ahead. Your thoughts, Nero.
I guess the fact that we have a rally tonight where the president's supporters after today are chanting "lock her up," and the politician stands in front of them and doesn't have the common decency to say stop to that group of people after what happened today.
The candidate running for Senate in Wisconsin.
Exactly.
What did you make of those comments by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and by Eric Holder that said basically get in there and, somebody who's on this show the other day, or someone I was with said to me, when you fight with Trump on his own language, using that kind of language, the pugilistic language, the tough guy street corner language, you walk into what's called the insect light, that little thing that catches mosquitoes. You walk into that and you get into the same world he is, and you won't want to be in that world.
So the argument,
I'm just asking you,
I
smart
hear
to respond?
I hear the argument, but the argument I'm saying to you, the argument that when your values are under attack, you need to defend them with everything you believe is different.
It's different
from saying Maxine Waters is a low IQ person with tons of people there. And frankly, I have to say it's ridiculous that we're
I didn't ask if you were agreeing they were equal. I just asked, do you think it's smart on the Democrats to talk back to Trump that way?
I just think that the idea that we're talking about this at all when these things happen is kind of what Trump wants.
Well,
it's not what we're talking. We're talking about the bombings today, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, but you're equating this language or saying it's similar.
My first boss was a guy named Bob Michael, who was a guy who said, we can disagree without being disagreeable. I think the sad thing is everyone is exceedingly disagreeable. And I think it's on both sides. I think Trump has been out of line on many, many occasions. I've said that on many occasions. I think on the other side, we've seen these mobs that go. I think you should be able to eat in a restaurant with being shouted at, have your leftovers taken and thrown on the ground. I mean, that kind of stuff is intimidation, and an intimidation on both sides. And it's bad for democracy. And we got to knock it off.
Sure. You know what? I agree. Like saying not being nice to people in a restaurant is bad. But the idea that we're actually in the same breath equating not being nice to a person in a restaurant and people getting pipe bombs sent to them is ridiculous.
Or getting shot at a baseball field.
And part of what is really upsetting. But, I guess we're all in a moral time here.
Well, first of all, let me explain what I think is going on. When you get into this kind of food fight, this personal name calling and terrible, mostly on the side of the president, him doing it, and then the other side jumps in and tries to match him, which never works. Literal Marco should have taught us that. And you get in that line. Then people out there who aren't as mentally stable, are not as good people, they think, okay, it's okay to do this horrible thing of bombing. I don't think it's the same. Nobody thinks it's that. You don't either.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.